Can you summarize the extent of the disinformation problem in the United States?
We have a crisis of trust in this country that I think is due in large part to the increased proliferation of disinformation and misinformation online and offline, right? It doesn't always stay online, of course. It leads to real world change and dangerous world impacts. And to put some numbers behind it, there are at least 50 million Americans who still believe that the 2020 election was fraudulent, the results, which we know factually to be incorrect. 20% of Americans believe QAnon is real, which is a baseless conspiracy theory. 16% of the public in America say that they trust the federal government always or most of the time, which is the lowest level in 7 decades in this country. And trust in media among Americans is at an unprecedented low. And again, I think that last point is actually very intentional by a lot of extremists and folks on the right who have done an enormous amount of work to undermine faith and trust in media in order to be the trusted messengers, which is, a standard pillar of authoritarian and fascist communication strategies. And it's worked. It's worked, right? We're seeing trust and faith in government and in media at historic lows because of a lot of intentional efforts and because of a lot of inaction, I think, by good government actors to actually meet people where they are and communicate with them in a way that is authentic and relatable. Frankly, I think that's another challenge in the media today, where we do have good factual journalism, of which there is a good supply in this country. It's still not actually accessible to a lot of people. It's talking to folks who are very high information consumers, who are of the most educated or the wealthiest Americans. It's because it really is intentionally around influencing the influencer class as opposed to informing the public. And that chasm has just gotten wider and wider over time. And so I think that disinformation has, bad actors who spread disinformation have very smartly weaponized these new channels of social media and algorithms, and the fact of being able to provide free information to folks who don't otherwise have access to free journalism, with a lot of sludge. And so we're seeing that. I mean, all I have to do is talk about the disparity between vaccine adoption and COVID deaths based on truly red and blue states when it comes to voting outcomes. There's a lot of data on that. And then, of course, the siege on the Capitol, the violent siege on the Capitol, which was all a rallying cry to true believers around a big lie. These are the consequences. People died that day. People were traumatized. And many people have post traumatic stress disorder. And I think that there is a level of that around the country, because we'd never seen anything like that, at least in my lifetime. And so disinformation has very, very, very real world impacts. And my fear around it is that the word has kind of become so ubiquitous, it's lost its meaning in certain ways. I worry about that, about the word democracy today as well. We call ourselves very proudly a pro democracy news organization, but folks kind of forget what that means. Democracy is about the people. It's not about a party over another party. It's about people having access to good information and agency in their votes, in their voice, in their civic participation, their ability to protest peacefully, their ability to vote. These are rights that are being actively tried to be taken away by extremists who run for office or are in office today. And so I think that everybody has a responsibility to put more definition and real stories of real people and the consequences behind these words that can lose their meaning, that are so critical for us to be able to solve as problems before us today.